Hi everybody. I'm going to be leaving for Chicago on Monday, and so I wanted to get this video done now. This is Conscious Living Newsletter. I wanted to talk about the two worlds that we live in. In actuality, we live in more than two worlds. We live in many dimensions. But I want to talk about how this world and the world where your loved ones reside who have passed, and how that's really not that far away. Now, I know where it is because my brother visited me 3 days after his death and provided me with the ability to look through the door or the window so that I know where that is. But the two worlds reside right here. It's like my acupuncturist and I were talking. Creativity, for example, you have creativity and you have destruction. To have creativity, to have created things, there must be destruction. So on one side is destruction, on the other side is the creative force. It's all one thing. So it is with the other side and our world. And what is reality? I was just telling a client of mine about how to stay on her path and not to get distracted by the world. And many of us don't know how to do this, but it's very important to knowing where you're going. It's kind of like a compass, and the compass comes from inside of ourselves. We have to know ourselves and know what we want, and to ask ourselves questions as well as ask God or the universe for assistance and guidance. I want to read something that my niece, who does the Mayan calendar, she's also a body worker and does Reiki and does all kinds of wonderful things, traditional Chinese medicine as well. And she wrote this excerpt right after I had told my client about staying in this place of focus about self and about being in the two worlds at the same time. As the Bible says, be in the world, but not of the world. And so I want to read. Some of this will not make sense because it's Mayan calendar information. If you want to know more about that, I will put a link to her website or her Facebook so you can learn more about it. But this is what my niece, Lisa Townsend, has to say about these two worlds that I'm talking about. We sit in the eternal moment now. Our manifested world is one with eternity. And it's proven in the movement of these cycles and the synchronicities that come about. Again, you have to have eyes to see and should not get hypnotized by the physical world, or you won't see what really matters or the meaning of what is happening. Think of this. If our physical life was real, it would never end. Time would not affect but it does. People and nature are born and die daily. That proves that they are fleeting. Therefore, like a dream that begins and ends, what is real and what is eternity, timelessness, and the grand universe, source, and love. How many thousands of witnesses who've been out of the body and come back in do we have to have before we believe? Everything physical is fleeting. It is just a dream. And what is real are the things we cannot see and we cannot touch. These are the things of love and hope and honor and bravery and all these things that live within our hearts and our spirits. This is reality. This is where we need to live every day, to focus on these concepts and to focus on this world, this other world. When we do that, this world becomes magical. Many of you have had experiences with me that even while speaking, we cannot believe what we're seeing and hearing. I want to tell you a little story about one of my ex-students from when I worked in Chicago. He's been laid off, and he's never had a job in his life. He's in his 50s. That he really feels like he loves. And I said, you know what? It's about time. Why don't we explore what I am telling you is reality in your head? Let's start working on this. It's a change in mindset. It should change, like Lisa says, we have to have eyes to see. So I've been giving him things to listen to. We talk. And he called me one day and said, I'm really excited. I think I'm going to go back to my old job. Now, his old job, they were abusive. He was underpaid. And I could not believe what I was hearing, because I told him, you've got to become this new person with this new mindset. And I said, well, you're going backwards if you do that. And he said, well, I'm getting really frustrated and impatient. And I said, that's why you're attracting the old job. Why don't we look at what we were talking about in the beginning, about what is truly you? What do you really want? And one of the things that we came up with is he used to be a taxi driver. He loves cars. And every time I see him or talk to him, he's in his car. And I said, that's a running theme. And he said, yeah, you know, I might like to sell cars. I said, well, then that resonates with who you are. So I said, you need to dwell upon that. That's what you need to see. You need to dream. You need to think positive about this and make this happen. And then he told me he was meditating one day, and when he came out of meditation, he saw a Mercedes-Benz hood ornament. And I said, well, there it is. You want to sell Mercedes-Benz. They're great cars. And he goes, yeah, they're great. And he stops for a moment and says, you'll never believe this. There's a Mercedes-Benz right in front of my car. I laughed and said, see, there's the message. There it is. And then we talked a little bit more about how you go about doing this. And then he stopped at his friend's house and he goes, wait, I gotta do something. I was like, okay. And then he goes, oh darn, I missed it. And I said, what was it? And he said, it was another Mercedes-Benz. So that evening, I'm looking at an email of a client, and I had gotten this email when I was speaking with my ex-student. And I looked down, and her first name is Mercedes. I emailed him back, and I said, "You'll never guess what. Guess what the name of my client who was contacting me when I was talking to you?" And he goes, "Mercedes." I said, "Yes. That's the kind of magic that can happen when you believe, when you want something that is resonating, is a part of you. And that is the world where our loved ones live. And that in time, when we are in this space where it's all eternity and not of the material world, we can begin to feel them. They're not gone. They're right here. I want to read what she said again. Our manifested world is one with eternity, and it is proven in the movements of these cycles and synchronicities that come about, just like with my student. Please ponder this, and I will see you next month, November. Bye now.